Sarah Martinez had always been different from other girls in her small Texas town. While her classmates painted their nails and talked about boys, she spent hours at the local shooting range with her grandfather, a Vietnam veteran who taught her that respect was earned, not given. At 18, Sarah shocked everyone by enlisting in the Navy. Her mother cried for 3 days straight. Her father questioned her decision at the dinner table every night until she left for basic training. The town gossips whispered that she was trying to prove something, that she would wash out within weeks. Basic training at Great Lakes Naval Training Center was brutal, but Sarah thrived. She outran most of the men in her division, scored expert on the rifle range, and never complained about the early morning drills or the harsh instructors. Her drill sergeant, Petty Officer Williams, noticed her determination from day one. "Martinez," he called out one morning after physical training, "you've got something most recruits don't." But wanting to be special and actually being special are two different things. Sarah wiped the sweat from her forehead and stood at attention. "Yes, Petty Officer Williams. I'm recommending you for advanced combat training. You interested in pushing yourself beyond what you think is possible?" Without hesitation, Sarah nodded. "Yes, Petty Officer Williams." After graduating basic training at the top of her class, Sarah was selected for advanced individual training in explosive ordnance disposal. The training was intense and dangerous. She learned to identify, disarm, and dispose of various types of explosives and improvised explosive devices. Many of her male classmates struggled with the pressure and precision required for the job. Sarah's instructor, Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, was a 20-year veteran who had served multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He had seen hundreds of students come through his program, and very few impressed him. Sarah was different. During one particularly challenging exercise, the students had to disarm a complex training device while being timed. The device was designed to simulate the pressure and stress of a real combat situation. One by one, students failed the exercise, their hands shaking too much to complete the delicate work required. When Sarah's turn came, she approached the device with calm confidence. The other students watched in silence as she systematically analyzed the components, her breathing steady and controlled. Within minutes, she had successfully disarmed the device, faster than anyone else in the class. Chief Rodriguez pulled her aside after the exercise. "Martinez, in my 20 years of doing this job, I've seen maybe 5 people with your level of natural ability. You've got ice in your veins and steady hands. That's a rare combination." "Thank you, Chief," Sarah replied, maintaining her professional demeanor. "I'm not just giving you a compliment, sailor. I'm telling you that you have what it takes to go places in this Navy that most people only dream about. But it's going to require sacrifice and dedication that will test every fiber of your being." After completing her EOD training with the highest scores in her class, Sarah was assigned to Naval Special Warfare Group 2 in Virginia Beach. This was where she first encountered the Navy SEALs, though she would be working alongside them rather than with them directly. Her commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander Thompson, briefed her on her new role. "Petty Officer Martinez, you'll be providing EOD support for special operations teams. This means you'll be working in high-stress, high-risk environments with some of the most elite warriors in the world. They don't have time for mistakes, and they don't have patience for anyone who can't keep up." Sarah's first deployment came 6 months later. She was attached to a SEAL team heading to Afghanistan to conduct counter-terrorism operations. The team leader, Lieutenant Jake Morrison, was skeptical about having a female EOD specialist on his team. "No offense, Martinez," he said during their pre-deployment briefing, "but my boys and I have been doing this for a long time. We move fast, we hit hard, and we don't have time to babysit anyone who can't handle the pressure." Sarah looked him directly in the eyes. "With all due respect, sir, I didn't ask to be babysat. I asked to do my job." The other SEALs in the room exchanged glances. They were used to working with male EOD specialists who understood their culture and could match their intensity. They weren't sure what to make of this young woman who seemed unfazed by their reputation. Their first mission together was a night raid on a suspected Taliban bomb-making facility in a remote village. Intelligence indicated that the compound contained multiple IEDs and booby traps designed to kill anyone who entered. As they approached the target building, Sarah moved with the team in complete silence. Her gear was perfectly organized, her movements precise and confident. The SEALs began to notice that she wasn't struggling to keep up or asking for special accommodation. When they reached the compound, Sarah immediately went to work. Using her specialized equipment, she detected 3 separate IEDs at the entrance to the building. Working by moonlight with only the faintest illumination from her headlamp, she began the painstaking process of disarming the devices. The SEALs provided security while she worked, but they couldn't help watching her technique. She moved with the same calm precision they had seen in their best operators, showing no signs of nervousness or hesitation despite the fact that one wrong move could kill them all. After successfully clearing the entrance, the team moved into the building. Inside, they discovered a sophisticated bomb-making laboratory with enough explosive materials to level several city blocks. Sarah's job was to render all of the materials safe for transport and evidence collection. Working for over 3 hours in the cramped, dangerous environment, Sarah systematically identified and neutralized dozens of explosive devices and components. The SEALs watched in growing amazement as she worked, understanding for the first time that they were witnessing something extraordinary. When the mission was complete and they were back at base, Lieutenant Morrison approached Sarah as she was cleaning her equipment. "Martinez," he said, his tone completely different from their first meeting, "I owe you an apology. I made assumptions about you based on things that had nothing to do with your abilities as a sailor or your skills as an EOD specialist." Sarah looked up from her work. "No apology necessary, sir. I understand that trust has to be earned." "Well, you've earned mine. And, more importantly, you've earned the respect of every man on this team. That's not something that happens easily." Over the following months, Sarah deployed on dozens of missions with various SEAL teams. Her reputation grew within the special operations community as word spread about the young woman who could remain calm under pressure and perform her job with exceptional skill in the most dangerous situations. But it was during her 3rd deployment that Sarah would face the ultimate test of her abilities and courage, an event that would change not only how others saw her, but how she saw herself. The mission that would prove once and for all that she belonged among the elite warriors she served alongside was still ahead of her, waiting in the mountains of Afghanistan where the enemy had prepared their deadliest trap yet. The call came at 0300 hours on a cold morning in March. Sarah was jolted awake by the emergency klaxon echoing through the base. Within minutes, she was dressed and running toward the briefing room, her EOD kit slung over her shoulder. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, the mission commander, was already addressing a room full of grim-faced SEALs when Sarah arrived. On the large screen behind him was a satellite image of a mountain village near the Pakistani border. Intelligence indicates that a high-value target, Taliban commander Malik Hassan, is hiding in this village. Hassan is responsible for coordinating attacks that have killed over 200 coalition forces in the past year. We have a narrow window to capture him before he moves to a new location. Hayes clicked to the next slide, showing detailed layouts of the village structures. "The problem is that Hassan has turned the entire village into a death trap. Our sources report that every building, every pathway, every possible entrance and exit has been rigged with explosive devices. This isn't just a few IEDs we're talking about. This is a sophisticated network of interconnected bombs designed to kill anyone who tries to approach." The room was silent as the SEALs studied the images. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the magnitude of the challenge they were facing. "Petty Officer Martinez," Hayes continued, turning to look directly at her, "this mission is going to require EOD skills beyond anything we've attempted before. You'll need to identify and neutralize a complex network of explosives while under enemy fire, in unfamiliar terrain, with limited visibility. Are you up for this?" Sarah stood up, her voice clear and steady. "Yes, sir. I'm ready." Chief Petty Officer Davis, one of the most experienced SEALs in the room, shook his head. "Commander, with all due respect, maybe we should consider calling in an Air Force EOD team with more experience in this type of large-scale operation." Before Hayes could respond, Sarah spoke up. "Chief Davis, I've been working with SEAL teams for 2 years now. I know how you operate, I know your communication protocols, and I know your tactics. Bringing in outside EOD specialists would mean taking time to integrate them into your team structure, time we might not have if this target is planning to move soon. SEAL Team Leader Lieutenant Morrison nodded in agreement. She's right, Chief. Martinez has been with us on 17 missions. She knows our procedures, and, more importantly, we trust her abilities. The debate continued for several more minutes, with some team members expressing concerns about the unprecedented danger of the mission. Sarah listened to their arguments without emotion, understanding that their hesitation came from legitimate tactical concerns rather than personal doubts about her gender or capabilities. Finally, Hayes made the decision. Martinez goes in with the team. We launch in 6 hours. The flight to the target area took 3 hours in a specially modified helicopter designed for stealth operations. Sarah used the time to study detailed intelligence reports about the types of explosives Hassan's forces typically used and to review the village layout one more time. Sitting across from her, Petty Officer Marcus Chen, the team's communications specialist, leaned forward. Martinez, I've got to ask. Aren't you nervous about this? I mean, this is bigger than anything any of us have faced before. Sarah looked up from her notes. Of course I'm nervous as Chen. If I wasn't nervous, I'd be stupid or crazy. But, being nervous and being afraid are two different things. I'm nervous because I want to do my job perfectly and get everyone home safe. I'm not afraid because I know I have the skills and training to handle whatever we encounter. Sergeant First Class Mike Rodriguez, the team medic, had been quietly listening to their conversation. You know, Martinez, when you first joined our team, I thought the brass was making a mistake. Nothing personal, but we'd never worked with a female EOD specialist before. I figured you'd either wash out or get someone killed trying to prove yourself. And, now? Sarah asked. Now I know you're one of the most competent operators I've ever served with. Male or female doesn't matter when you're disarming a bomb that could kill your entire team. What matters is skill, courage, and the ability to perform under pressure. You've got all three. As their helicopter approached the landing zone, Sarah felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came before every mission. This time, however, the stakes were higher than anything she had experienced before. The intelligence reports suggested that Hassan had spent months preparing this village as his fortress, creating a defensive network that would challenge even the most experienced EOD specialists. The team fast roped down into a valley approximately 2 kilometers from the target village. The terrain was rough and mountainous, with loose rocks and steep inclines that made movement difficult even without the added weight of specialized equipment. As they moved toward the village in the pre-dawn darkness, Sarah's mind was completely focused on the task ahead. She ran through mental checklists of her equipment, reviewed procedures for different types of explosive devices, and visualized the various scenarios they might encounter. When they reached the outer perimeter of the village, Sarah immediately began detecting explosive signatures with her specialized sensors. The readings were unlike anything she had seen before. Instead of individual IEDs placed at strategic locations, the entire village appeared to be one massive, interconnected explosive network. Morrison, she whispered into her radio, this is more complex than we anticipated. I'm reading explosive signatures from virtually every structure and pathway. It's like the entire village has been turned into one giant bomb. How long do you need to create a safe pathway to Hassan's location? Morrison asked. Sarah studied her sensor readings and the village layout. Sir, if I try to rush this, we're all going to die. I need at least 90 minutes to properly map the network and identify safe routes. We don't have 90 minutes, Martinez. Intelligence indicates Hassan might move at first light. That gives us maybe 60 minutes before this whole operation becomes pointless. Sarah felt the weight of the entire mission resting on her shoulders. 60 minutes to accomplish what should take several hours, working in darkness with enemy forces potentially watching their every move. It was the kind of challenge that could end careers or lives with a single mistake. She took a deep breath and made her decision. Give me 45 minutes, and I'll get you a safe route to the target. What happened next would test every skill Sarah had learned in her years of training and experience. Working faster than she had ever worked before, she began the dangerous process of mapping and neutralizing a network of explosives designed by an enemy who had months to prepare for their arrival. Working in complete darkness except for the faint green glow of her night vision equipment, Sarah began the most challenging task of her career. The explosive network Hassan had created was sophisticated beyond anything in her training manuals. Each device was connected to multiple others, creating a web of destruction that could be triggered by disturbing any single component. Moving inch by inch through the village perimeter, Sarah used her specialized detection equipment to map the locations of every explosive device. Her hands were steady despite the pressure, her breathing controlled despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Behind her, the SEAL team maintained defensive positions while she worked. They could hear enemy voices in the distance, indicating that Hassan's forces were aware of their presence and preparing for a fight.
"Martinez, how are we looking?"
Morrison's voice crackled through her earpiece. "I've identified the primary pathway, but it's going to require us to move in single file through a very narrow corridor. One step off the designated route and we trigger a chain reaction that will bring down half the village."
"Copy that. How much longer?"
Sarah glanced at her watch. She had been working for 35 minutes, and she still needed to clear the final approach to Hassan's compound.
"Give me 10 more minutes."
As she approached the building where Hassan was reportedly hiding, Sarah's sensors indicated the presence of the most sophisticated explosive device she had ever encountered. The entire structure appeared to be rigged with enough explosives to create a blast that would be felt for miles. The device was unlike anything in her training. Multiple triggering mechanisms, backup detonators, and what appeared to be a deadman switch that would activate if Hassan was captured or killed. One wrong move in disarming the system could kill not only the SEAL team but potentially dozens of innocent civilians in surrounding buildings. Sarah studied the device through her specialized imaging equipment, her mind racing through possible solutions.
The traditional approach would require hours of careful work to safely neutralize all the components. But they didn't have hours.
Then, she remembered something her grandfather had told her years ago at the shooting range. "Sometimes, Sarah, the smartest thing to do is the simplest thing. When you're overthinking a problem, step back and look for the obvious solution." Instead of trying to disarm the complex network of explosives, Sarah realized she could isolate the building by cutting the connecting wires that linked Hassan's compound to the rest of the village network. It was risky, but it would allow the team to capture their target without triggering the larger explosive system. Working with surgical precision, Sarah located and carefully severed the connection points. Each cut had to be perfect, each wire identified correctly, because a single mistake would detonate the entire network.
"Morrison, I've isolated the target building. You have a 10-minute window to get Hassan before the backup systems activate." "Outstanding work, Martinez. We're moving in."
The SEAL team moved through Sarah's designated pathway like shadows, their movements precise and coordinated. Within 8 minutes, they had Hassan in custody and were beginning their extraction. But, as they prepared to leave the village, Sarah's sensors detected something that made her blood run cold. The backup detonation system was activating ahead of schedule, triggered by Hassan's capture.
In less than 3 minutes, the entire village would explode.
"Morrison, we have a problem," Sarah radioed. "The backup system is live. We need to evacuate immediately, but there are civilians in the surrounding buildings who won't make it out in time."
The team leader's response was immediate. "Martinez, get those civilians out of there. We'll cover you."
Without hesitation, Sarah ran toward the nearest building where her sensors had detected civilian heat signatures. Breaking down doors and shouting warnings in her limited Arabic, she managed to get 12 villagers out of the blast zone. But time was running out. Her sensors showed 90 seconds before detonation, and there were still more civilians in the danger area. Sarah made a decision that would define the rest of her life. Instead of evacuating with the team, she ran toward the Explosive Networks Control Center, a small building she had identified earlier. If she could manually override the system, she might be able to delay the explosion long enough for everyone to escape. Racing against time, Sarah reached the control building with 40 seconds to spare. The override system was more complex than she had hoped, requiring her to simultaneously disconnect multiple circuits while maintaining power to the delay mechanism. Her hands moved faster than they ever had before, cutting wires and rerouting connections with the precision of a master surgeon.
20 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. With just 2 seconds remaining, Sarah completed the override sequence. The explosive network powered down, and the village was safe. As she emerged from the building, Sarah found herself facing the assembled SEAL team.
Morrison stepped forward, his expression one of awe and respect. "Martinez, what you just did was the most courageous and skillful action I've witnessed in 15 years of special operations. You saved not only our lives but the lives of dozens of innocent people." But the real recognition came 2 weeks later, back at the base in Virginia Beach. Sarah was summoned to the base commander's office, where she found herself facing Admiral Richardson, the commanding officer of Naval Special Warfare Command. "Petty Officer Martinez," the admiral began, "your actions in Afghanistan have been brought to my personal attention. The EOD community has had many heroes over the years, but what you accomplished on this mission was extraordinary."
"Thank you, sir, but I was just doing my job."
"No, Martinez, you went far beyond your job. When faced with a choice between your own safety and the lives of others, you chose to risk everything to save people you had never met.
That's not training.
That's character." The admiral paused and looked directly at Sarah. "There are some people in the Pentagon who still question whether women belong in special operations roles.
After reading the reports from this mission, I think we have our answer."
Later that day, Sarah was walking across the base when she heard someone call her name. She turned to see Chief Petty Officer Davis, the SEAL who had questioned her readiness for the mission just 2 weeks earlier.
"Martinez, can I have a word with you?"
Sarah stopped and turned to face him.
"Of course, Chief."
Davis looked uncomfortable, as if he was struggling to find the right words.
"I owe you an apology.
2 weeks ago, I questioned whether you were ready for that mission.
I was wrong.
What you did over there, the courage and skill you demonstrated, that's what we expect from our best operators.
Male or female doesn't matter.
What matters is whether you can perform when lives are on the line, and you've proven that you can."
"Thank you, Chief. That means a lot coming from you."
Davis extended his hand. "It's an honor to serve alongside you, Martinez." As Sarah walked away from that conversation, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From the small Texas town where people doubted she would last a week in the military, to earning the respect of the most elite warriors in the world, she had proven that determination and skill knew no gender. But, more importantly, she had proven it to herself. The girl who had spent hours at the shooting range with her grandfather had become the woman who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Navy SEALs and earn their complete respect and trust. The following month, Sarah received orders for a new assignment that would make her one of the first women to serve in a permanent EOD role with Naval Special Warfare Units. Her reputation had spread throughout the special operations community, and commanders were specifically requesting her for their most challenging missions. As she packed her gear for the new assignment, Sarah thought about all the young women who might follow in her footsteps. She had proven that barriers could be broken, that respect could be earned, and that courage and competence were not limited by gender. The proof had been demanded, and she had delivered it in the most decisive way possible. When she walked past groups of SEALs now, they didn't just acknowledge her presence, they saluted her achievements and the standard of excellence she represented. Sarah Martinez had earned her place among the elite, and no one would ever question her right to be there again.